Just one story dominating our coverage from RT International here at RTHQ Moscow today. Just turned 2 p.m. I'm Kevin Owen. Hi. German police have revealed more details about the teenager who gunned down 9 mostly young people in a shopping precinct in Munich last night. The killer's mental health is being investigated, but links to ISIL or the migrant crisis have been ruled out. Nikki Aaron has more on that. She's in Munich now for us live. Hi there. Awful events last night. There's been a lot of speculation about the attacker and her motives. What have police said about him?
Well, the police conferences which has been held and painted a clearer picture as to the motives of the man behind this attack. I'm here outside the Olympia Mall now, where the horrific attack took place. It's usually a busy with shoppers on a Saturday afternoon, but today, as you can see, it's a completely different picture. People are continuing to arrive here to lay flowers and light candles. A lot of people are in tears, and behind me, a single sign reading "Why?" and that's the big question at this point. Why did this happen? Now, panic and mayhem gripped Munich throughout the night as police believed they were searching for up to 3 attackers, maybe more, and a state of lockdown was put on the city while police hunted what they believed to be multiple attackers, but it was later confirmed to be a lone attacker behind this, and his body was found around half a mile from the mall. He committed suicide. He was identified by a neighbour who spotted him on television in that CCTV footage and amateur footage. He's been named as David S., who's believed to be a 19-year-old Iranian German. Now, this police media conference has calmed speculation somewhat, confirming that he's not affiliated with ISIL in any way, and also he's not a refugee. He was born and bred in Bavaria. But they've also painted a picture of a rather troubled young man. We believe that he was bullied for 7 years at school, and classmates have told police that he had promised to seek revenge on them. It's also unclear about his mental state. As you said at this point, we know that he may have been receiving psychological treatment, and we know that he was also researching materials on the shooting. Now, police are investigating what is believed to be a Facebook account set up by this man, David S., which was apparently luring children to the McDonald's where this attack all started, promising them free burgers. Now, we're going to take a listen now to the account of one of the fathers of one of the victims of the attack. It's rather upsetting, but let's take a listen.
He was together with his friend. His friend just called me. He said that they had bought some drinks and wanted to sit outside and have a drink. The perpetrator was just 2 meters away from them. He opened fire. The friend managed to flee and my son was shot dead. I'm living as if in a nightmare. I still cannot believe what has happened. Everyone, the whole of our family, cannot believe this.
So shock and sorrow has gripped Munich today, and people continue to arrive here in tears. And later we hope to be hearing from Angela Merkel, who a lot of the anger has been directed at.
Yeah, Nikki, thanks for bringing us up to date there on what is a hugely sad day for Munich and, of course, the whole of Germany as well. Well, this is how it all unfolded last night. On Friday night, video emerged showing a covered body in the street. The shooting began early on Friday evening. The attacker opened fire in a branch of McDonald's. Then he moved to the Olympia shopping centre across the street. That shopping centre is the largest in Munich. It's located in the north of the city. Locals say that mall targeted is known as an area where migrants gather. Security analyst and former UK officer Charles Shoebridge, used to be in the army in the UK, says Germany should strengthen security measures in public places now.
This is a shopping centre. People want to encourage footfall, people going into these shopping centres, and again, something that might deter that, the free movement of people, would be overburdening security, for example, security checks at shopping centre entrances. And of course, in the West, in most countries, we're not used to having metal detector checks and so on at the entrances to shopping centres. And indeed, even if you did have, as recent attacks have shown, for example, the attacks at Turkey's Istanbul airport very recently, that even though there are security checkpoints, you simply displace the attack onto the queues waiting at those checkpoints. We may have to look again at the whole issues of policy and how that's impacted upon the situation we're in respect of foreign policy, the destabilisation of countries such as Syria, Iraq, Libya, from which much of this terrorism has either emanated or been incubated. But that's perhaps a discussion for further down the line when we know more about this attacker.
Saturday's newspapers in Germany and across Europe are leading with a massacre, with headlines such as "Bloodbath in Munich" and "Country in Horror." Just 2 days ago, the German Interior Minister, commenting on the recent spate of terror attacks in Europe, warned of the risk of future attacks by radicalised individuals.
The entire EU, with Germany its focal point, is the target of international terrorism. Therefore, I've been saying for some time now that we're in a serious situation, and we have to expect attacks by small groups or radicalised lone operators in Germany.
Even if these words are hard to say, it's my duty to do so. There will be other attacks and there will be other innocent people killed. We must not become accustomed, but learn to live with this menace.
This video from Munich, just after the attack, shows people holding their hands up on police orders as officers secure the premises there. There were similar scenes in Nice last week too, as police escorted people away on their, with their hands on their heads after scores were killed when a lorry, of course, was deliberately ploughed into that crowd. Awful scenes there as well of late. We've spoken to several experts who say the massacre adds to a general atmosphere of fear right now in Europe.
I think it's going to be a continuing trend. I think it's going to get a lot worse. Let's look at the Tunisian fellow who committed the massacre in Nice. Evidently, there was nothing on the radar screen. He was a petty criminal. He was not, as far as they know, on the terrorist watch radar screen in any way. He did not seem to be somebody who presented this kind of threat. This is an indication that things are going to get a lot worse before they get better.
It's very, very difficult to prevent any terrorist attack. If you want to truly defeat terrorism, you've got to try and defeat the causes of the descent, the social, economic and political causes. But it's impossible to prevent terrorism full stop in the real world as we stand at the moment. But it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, and it takes a huge intelligence capability as well.
We're living in obviously very tense times whereby there are too many organizations that benefit from instilling fear across the world and across European capitals. So again, it is very early and it's very difficult to say who benefits and who is responsible for this. But I think what we can now know is that Europe today lives in a climate of fear as a result of these ongoing attacks.
Hashtag Pray for Munich began trending on social media soon after the killings made the news. After yet another deadly event in Europe, then people have expressed their anger over the perceived lack of security, saying that it's sad to see the level of ongoing violence and asking when the authorities will be in a position to prevent such attacks. There's also a lot of anger being directed right now at Angela Merkel too, with some even calling for her resignation.
Only surprise about the Munich shooting is that it took this long before it happened. Still happy with last year's decision, Angela Merkel?
The relatives of the raped and killed should thank Angela Merkel for the destruction of Germany.
What will it take for Angela Merkel to resign from office? German people need to wake up. She's responsible for all of this.
Angela Merkel must leave after this because she's dangerous for the whole of Europe.
There's still no word from the Chancellor herself on the atrocity in Munich, but she's thought to be meeting her Security Council about now. Meantime, let's have a look at her reaction to previous attacks.
Lassen Sie mich für die Bundesregierung und für mich persönlich unsere tiefe Bestürzung und Trauer darüber ausdrücken, was Terroristen den Menschen in Brüssel heute angetan haben. Einem Nationalfeiertag, der ein Tag des Stolzes ist und nun ein Tag der großen Trauer geworden ist. Aber an diesem Tage gilt die Solidarität aller Menschen in Deutschland mit den Freunden in Frankreich, die Solidarität aller hier anwesenden Länder im Kampf gegen den Terrorismus.
Let's get some thoughts now from Germany. Peter Schulz is Professor of International Relations at the University of Göttingen, joins us now. Hi there. Why do you think Angela Merkel's coming on the receiving end of the stick for public anger here? I mean, it wasn't her that carried out this attack, was it?
Of course, I mean, you see it in the polls. Her rating has fallen dramatically, not the one of the Christian Democratic Party, but her rating personally. And I think we are living at the moment in a situation of a very nervous country, and security is not anymore given. At least this is the opinion or the sentiment shared by millions of German citizens. Therefore, anything political can happen here.
Yeah, there are a lot of calls for her to resign. Is she going to resign over this, do you think?
No, she will not resign because there's no successor in sight. And even if there would be a successor, it would have been a kind of acceptance of her failure, and she will never do this. Therefore, we will linger on with the situation. And unfortunately, this time, there is no connection to the refugee issue. It is a German born Munich living.
Unhappy, disaffected youngster, whoever it is, that youngster, just like the youngster, the 17-year-old Afghan asylum seeker that injured those 4 people on the train just on Monday, had access to weapons, whether it be an axe, whether it be a knife, or whether it be much more severely a gun here. What does it say about access to this kind of dangerous weaponry in Germany? Should it be clamped down on now?
I think the laws which restrict the possession of weapons are relatively strict, and they are Europe-wide, and you cannot hinder a person to get hold of a knife.
Peter, you're breaking up a bit. We get the first bit of what you say, then it slightly drifts off a bit. But just one last thought, if you can still hear me. Apparently a book was found in this guy's flat, Ali David, what was his name? He's been named Ali David Sumboli, I believe. A book in his flat saying, "Rampage on my mind, why students kill." What could have driven him to do this? What drives someone like this to do this kind of thing? I mean, it's one thing, I suppose, to think about it, but to carry it out.
I mean, we have, since the Norwegian disaster a couple of years ago, where more than 80 people were killed by a person who has had psychological problems. We are living in a kind of a mood where these crazy people pop up, and you cannot do anything against them. You cannot stop them, you cannot police them, you cannot control them. They just flip out, and then it happens. I mean, this is a situation which we know since decades in the United States, and the United States, with a huge police and judicial apparatus behind, cannot do anything either against it. So we are somehow in a global interaction of insecurity and things like this, which never really happened before in Germany or in other European countries, suddenly are there. And this kind of phenomena, of course, are sending shockwaves through the mentality and the security-minded people in Europe, and especially in Germany.
Leave it there. Thank you, Professor of International Relations, University of Göttingen.
Thank you.
Munich police say the attack had no criminal record, but was instead a victim of assault at least twice. However, an unverified video apparently shows the killer shouting obscenities against Turks. Even though police say the crime is not connected to the migrant crisis, there's widespread feeling that Angela Merkel's open door policy may have been a factor. There's been a growing refugee backlash in Germany recently, with right-wing marches being a regular sight in German cities, as we've been reporting. The German Chancellor's long spoken of the need to help people fleeing adversity.
Those who flee misery, war, political oppression, we are responsible for helping them whether we want to or not.
It's got to the point where one Bavarian official sent a bus full of refugees to Berlin back in January, fulfilling his promise to make Merkel personally responsible for any asylum seekers sent to his town above the quota. Here's how he justified that decision at the time.
Under these circumstances, I would rather see these people housed somewhere where they can live in a humane way. If they cannot provide humane conditions here for them, I will take them back. And that will show that our asylum policy really is a mess in this country.